So we'll call this special, what do we call it? Got it here. Special called meeting, budget workshop retreat, back to session. All right.
Welcome back, everybody. Good morning. I'd like to welcome Warren Miller with us again this morning. So, Warren, thanks for joining with us. And look forward to just this morning, the next 3.5 hours. We'll spend the first hour and 15 minutes or so working on establishing some core values and exercise on that. Then we'll take a quick break and then come back and go through your big, audacious ideas and exercise. And I'm glad to see Jeff has his therapy dog there. So let me jump here. You know, it's my tradition to kind of set the tone for the day, and normally I've read something out of the minutes, the old minutes, but I thought, okay, I thought this year we would do something more looking forward instead of looking backwards. So I talked before about a book I like to use. It's Peter Block's book, Community. And so I want to talk a little bit about building a restorative community. This was really on my radar, something a goal I had last year to have more community meetings, to get out in the community more when we were meeting last year. Obviously that changed within a month of this meeting, and we couldn't do that. So, but I thought this was, I'm an optimist that we're going to get back to somewhat of a normal pace in the coming year. So I wanted to get back into the community book and talk a little bit about becoming a restorative community. And you're saying, what in the world is a restorative community, John? So, and restoration is about healing our woundedness. I think what we saw in the last, if we're not wounded after the last 12 months, I don't know what woundedness is, right? We had lots of separation from family and friends, lots of stress on us, lots of divisiveness with the election we had in 2020, and the divisiveness continues, and hopefully we can work to restore. We're not always going to agree in our community. And this is, I wish there were more citizens participating today. I'm speaking to, I hope to speak to more citizens, because it's more about working together as a community to solve our problems and to restore our woundedness. And restoration is about healing our woundedness. In community terms, healing our fragmentation and instability is only out of this healing can something new emerge. And I think something new that is emerging is our community is emerging, it's changing, it's growing. And restoration comes from the choice of value, possibility, and relatedness over problems. Instead of focusing on problems and self-interest and the rest of what Block calls a stuck community agenda, it hinges on accountability chosen by our citizens and their willingness to connect with each other around promises they make to each other. Restoration is created by the kinds of conversations we initiate with each other. These conversations are the leverage point for an alternative future. The core question that underlines each conversation is what can we create together? Shifting the context from retribution to restoration will occur through language that moves in the following directions. From problems, so instead of focusing on problems, we focus on possibilities. From fear and fault to gifts, generosity, and abundance. From law and oversight to social fabric and chosen accountability. And systems to associational life, and from leaders to citizens. So, one thing I really want to focus as we talk to our community is how to build this restorative community. A restorative community is created when we allow ourselves to use language of healing and relatedness and belonging without embarrassment, and encourages that taking responsibility for one's own part in creating the present situation is the critical act of courage and engagement, which is the act axis around which the future rotates. This means that the essential aspect of the restoration of community is the context in which each citizen chooses to be accountable rather than entitled. That we all have stake in what the community is, what it looks like, and we should not be entitled, but we should all work to make it a greater community. And then lessons that we learn, the future of a community then becomes the choice, again, between retributive conversation, which is a problem to be solved, and a restorative conversation, the possibility to be lived into. What is the possibility of our great community? Restoration is a possibility brought into being by choosing that kind of conversation. Conversations of possibility gone public are not all that restores, but without the personal and private conversations of possibility have no political currency and therefore no communal power. So what is the shift? Is to summarize the story to this point, our conversations and gatherings have to point to the shift, the context from retributive community to restorative community. That occurs through questions and dialogue that moves us in the following direction. From conversations about problems to ones of possibility, from conversations about fear and fault to ones of gifts, generosity, and abundance, from a bet on law and oversight to a preference for building a social fabric and choosing accountability, from seeing the corporation and systems as central to seeing associational life as central, and from a focus on leaders to a focus on citizens. This is what these have in common is a movement from centralism and individualism to pluralism and independent communalism. I'll stop right there. So that's kind of my theme and goal, is to help us build a great restorative community and help our community to see the great things and the possibility of our community and to build that in our team. So the way I wanted to start that this morning is really talking to a council, as a council, about establishing some organizational core values. What we believe, or what we are guided by the belief that what's going to make us a great community? What is the possibility? What are these core values that we can publish and use in our organization to continue to evolve our culture to have this great community? So, Warren, I think that's my introduction this morning. So I'll turn it back over to you, and we'll get started.
And I'll take myself off mute. So good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you, and I am still trying to see if I can just retain everything that you all had from last night. That was a really impressive presentation by the staff, and I can promise you that we won't have those kinds of high-tech, graphics and things today. It'll be fairly low-tech as we go forward, but certainly glad to be here, and appreciate the chance to be able to spend some time with you this morning. What I'd like to do is I'd like to share my screen here and give you a quick overview of what we're going to do this morning. So we'll be using this whiteboard as we go through the session today. So I hope everybody can see it. And John walked through the agenda. We really have two things that we're going to be focusing on here. One is for you to begin to articulate your values. What are the kinds of values that you believe will make Hendersonville this organization a great place, and Hendersonville a great place? And then second, to give you a chance to talk about these ideas, these opportunities that you have for the community. Have some discussion about those. Put those out and begin to think about what is it that you really want to push forward on. So two things that we want to do, two conversations. This is going to give your staff guidance to be able to go back and craft a set of values that they can bring back to you. So our intention isn't to finalize and completely wordsmith these, but to give staff some guidance, and then they can come back And then also to give guidance to your staff about, what are the things that are really important to focus on? What are the priorities that you want to move forward on? So I'll be facilitating, and then I also have Connor Dale, who's part of my team, who's going to be taking some notes in the background on the whiteboard. So just want to let you know how we'll be moving along. And you'll see I didn't put any ground rules here. So it's a complete free-for-all, right? But I guess I want to just check with you all. We don't have set times, but I do promise that we'll take some breaks. We do have the morning to all morning to go through. But is there anything that you just want to put up here, just in terms of breaks that you want, or anything that's going to help make this session more productive for you? Anything that you want to put up on the board? Jeff, you're good?
Do we need to say something, like we're good, or do you want us to?
Yeah, some kind of verbal, physical cue, so I can move on. Yeah. And, Jeff, thanks for, we welcome your home into the picture, so, glad to see your canine intern, who's with you.
Well, I'm actually over at Jen's house.
Okay.
So he'll probably be back home.
So we will take a break. Anything that you need in terms of breaks, how long we go, anything like that? All right.
Okay, let's take a break.
I like that.
All right. Well, you all are easy. We didn't put the basic ground rules, all sort of the good process ground rules here. I think you all know how to work together. So what I would like to do is to get started with our first conversation here. So, we're going to be talking about values. And before we really get into that, just want you to think about what's something you value about your work on this council, your work with the city government, and what's one thing that you value about living in Hendersonville? So what I want you to do is just use the chat. I assume everybody knows how to use the chat at this point. We're all experts on Zoom. So 2 questions for each of you. We're going to put them up on the sticky notes here. What is one thing that you value about your council, you as a council, in the work that you do, and one thing that you value about living in Hendersonville? Take a moment, put it in the chat, and we'll get it up on the board for you.
You just go down the chat.
Yeah, just go down to chat, and we'll know it's you, and we'll put it on your sticky note here.
Or are we putting this to you or just all panelists?
I'll put it to all panelists. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Give me the 2 again.
So, Jeff, if you look at the screen, it's one thing you value about your work with the council,
I covered it up.
and the other is living in the community, and living in Hendersonville.
Well, you see, I'm not an expert at all this stuff. I'll start chatting, the whole thing disappeared except my chat.
We got you covered, Jeff. Anything you need, we'll get you squared away. this little sticky note, but we will fit it in.
See, I understand that technology lets you do, and you can have editorial rights.
All right, we might just condense a little bit, but you can talk about it. All right, so Jennifer, we're getting your second one.
Jim's been doing a lot of talking on this too.
So, let's just, if each of you could just share a little bit more, one thing you value about your work on the council, and then one thing you value about living in the community. Anybody want to just kick off the conversation?
I'll be glad to start.
Jeff,
Yeah,
are you in the same?
Jeff, you guys are gonna have feedback if you're in the same room.
you can mute, can't you, Jim? Yes, you can mute person.
So it's the volume level, Jeff. So when you speak, her volume is it's your mic that's coming back through.
Okay, so I'll,
Right, but
So if she turns her down a little, that might help.
Yeah, or if someone wants to put on headsets, that's just your thing. All right, I'll tell you what, as they're working, you want to give it a shot
Okay.
yet?
okay. Still bad?
I have found the only way to fix that is for Jen to turn her mic off completely, or somebody put on some of these, or both of
I
you.
haven't.
Mine was muted, it hasn't, I just unmuted to talk.
Okay, now, stiff. You know what, let Jerry, you or Lindsay go look at this a little more.
Okay. Lindsay, would you like for me to go? Would you like to go, Lindsay?
You can go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. So I put down for city council, I think, to me, one of the things I value is I've never met a city council member that was not incredibly open and available to speaking to residents. I think, we try to dispel the myth that government is not available for people. That's a great thing. There's some negative sides to that at times maybe, because we're contacted at times we don't necessarily, are not available to respond easily. Or, you're in the grocery store, but I think that's part of being on city council, and I think that restores, I shouldn't say restores, it keeps people's faith that the government is at least listening to their ideas. And I think all members of council do that. So that's my one for council. With regard to community, this really goes back to our decision to move here. We kind of view this as a real hometown. You go to the grocery store and you see people that you work with, you see people that you know from other activities. I lived in Oakland, Virginia before I moved here, and never once did I see a student, and I only lived 20 minutes from the high school where I taught. Never once did I ever see a student outside of school. And I think you lose some aspect of community when you're like that. And certainly there are people that are forced to live in that, realm, but I'm glad I don't have to. And that's one of the things I value here is people really view it as, and I think a lot of people that move here from the United States that move into Hendersonville come here because they sense that from us. So that's one of the things that I really value about our community.
Thanks, Jerry. So we can go up to, want to go to Lindsay?
Sure. So So I think mine are pretty similar to Jerry's, actually. For council, it's being able to work with everybody that's on council and also just being able to make a lasting impact on the community. I think it kind of goes in line with my community value, which is that connectedness. That when we first moved here, I was from Florida originally, and it was a similar situation to what Jerry was describing. You never really saw people that you worked with out in the community, or your friend, like you had to plan visits with people. And here, I feel like every time I walk down Main Street, I run into multiple people that I know. And I just love that connectedness feeling, and that I know that there's a whole community of people that I can reach out to. If I need something, or if they need something, they can reach out to me. And I've never really lived in a place like that until we moved here. And so I think being able to make lasting improvements and changes to better that community is even more impactful than somewhere else.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay. Let's go to Barbara.
Okay. I think over the years, it seems that the council has always been focused on the community. You don't see people who join the council for what they can get out of it. It's always been, okay, what are we doing for Hendersonville or Henderson County or these people, not looking at, okay, I can improve the situation for myself. It's always what's going to be best for the community as a whole. And I think that's always been one of the strengths of the city council. And similar to the others, this is an extraordinarily caring community. All the nonprofits we have, people trying to give back. And for the most part, it's welcoming. I hear some people that feel, sorry, Jeff, the natives don't like the newcomers coming in. But for the most part, people are welcoming of lots of different kinds of people, and I think that's one of the things I like about it.
And Barbara, just a question. You said for most people?
Most people are I didn't write it right. Most people are very welcoming of others.
I hope you weren't saying other than Jeff.
That's on the back of the sticky note.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like, certainly not Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, go ahead and tell us about yours.
No, as far as working with council, I had too many things going through my head, but the gist of it, I really like just working to help shape the city that I was born in some time ago. And it's growing up in it and looking up to the folks that were in the positions we sit in now. And to actually be doing that and hopefully contributing to a better is a big deal. I've never come in with an agenda other than to try to make the city as strong and diverse and welcoming as possible. And it's fabulous when you have a great team of people like John and Brian go right down the line there, and then you sit on a council as diverse as we have, especially now. And we've really been kind of forced to work together on some things that we might see a little differently. And there's some times when I've left that I felt like, that was fun. We really earned our keep. So it's every meeting's interesting. Some of them are very frustrating, but I do believe we're all working towards the goal of just making Hendersonville stronger and stronger.
Thanks, Jeff. And Jeff, we'll come over to you.
So excited, okay. I talked about, just being deeply rooted here as a mom business owner and raising my family here. And I think that Jeff kind of touched on it a little bit, but every person that I know through city council or city staff are all like actively engaged in the community, even in their personal lives. And, seeing John take his daughters to dance class at the same place that I'm at, and, Brian out walking his dog downtown on Main Street, and, everybody is connected to this community, and which I feel like having that connection to the community, gives you a perspective of wanting to do right by the community as well. And, Jerry's a coach in this community, he's raising his kids here as well. Lindsay has a small child here. Jeff has already raised a child here, but, we all are connected, and, I think as a result of that, we want to see, good things happen here and, make it continue to be a good place to live.
Great, thanks Jennifer. Thanks everyone for sharing that. So we're just gonna keep these sticky notes up here and just talk about the kinds of values that you think are important for you to establish as a council, if you think are important for Hendersonville as a community, as you lead forward into into this next decade and beyond. So values, a question is like, well, why do we need to have this conversation in the first place? Like, why is it important? And, just to start with, well, what are values? So, values are things, just kind of move this here. Values describe, it's what you believe in, it guides your decision-making, how you treat each other, how you treat your staff, residents, clients, customers. They help guide your vision, your strategic plan, your goals. So these are the fundamental things in the decisions that you make, in the way that you conduct your meetings, in the kind of community that you aspire to have. So how do they show up in practice? And so, you can think of it as if you have an opportunity, there are a decision that you need to make as a council, or two choices that you have to make. You can think about it as, how do these reflect or not reflect the values that we have as a community? So they can help, having values can help you decide what direction you want to go or what choice you want to make. So they're really this kind of backbone. It's great to have goals and objectives, and the values provide that foundational direction that you have in your own lives and that you have as leaders of the community. So it is a really important thing to just think together about, well, let's just be explicit about these things that we value. And let's just get them out there and be clear so that everyone knows, that staff knows, the community knows what's important and what drives the decisions that we make as a council. So we're going to spend a little time getting this out, getting it up on the board, seeing what you think are important values to capture. But any questions about what we mean, what are values, why spend time on this?
I have a question, Mark.
Yeah.
So, is this different than, like, what I think are values that are in our vision statement for the city? Is this a different view of value? I shouldn't say different, but are we going through this for something other than visioning for the city? Or if you could explain that.
Yeah, so, your visioning, your goals do have values embedded into them, right? I mean, the things that you care about that you set as goals are reflecting values that you have. So there is, there's a connectedness between values and vision. This conversation is to provide the kind of framework that you can always come back to when you think about decisions, when you think about how you want to conduct your meetings, about what's important for the community, what do we care about. And so, does that answer the question specifically enough, Jerry? Or would it be helpful to dive in?
That's good enough. That's good enough.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, any just other questions or, just thoughts about why values, what they mean, how they're used? I'm gonna give you a chance to think about what are some of the values that are important. It's to know that we're not trying to recreate your goals, so these goals all look really familiar to everybody. Everybody has them memorized and laminated, and carry them with you.
Tattooed, little tattoo.
Tattooed, okay.
Hey Warren, just
Yeah.
give me an example of what you say a value is that I guess you're gonna say that we use to contribute to attaining the goals.
Yeah, well, I will say, I would say, before I give you an example, let me see, when you look at what you all just said as values, does anybody wanna pull a value that you think as a council that pops up, or what you see as
I
a
have
value that you have for the community? A theme?
So I have one that I can throw out there. And it kind of piggybacks off of what I think the mayor was trying to say with her community, what she valued in the community. And so I think for me, I believe that every citizen should feel supported and valued by their community. And right now, I think we do have some folks who don't feel that way. They maybe don't have the same connectedness that all of us were expressing that we feel. And so I think making that a value will really help us guide more of our goals into that direction for, I mean, it could be equity and diversity, but even just anyone who moves in here, they should feel valued and supported.
And so if that's a value, Lindsay, that you have, how would that show up in just an example of a decision that you might make as a council member?
I mean, I think it would be more in decision-making focused on diversity and equity to make sure that whatever programs or policies we're putting out there are not inadvertently harming one section of the community. I can't think of like a specific decision off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm going to share, I don't want to put words to, or sort of put certain, words about what you should or shouldn't do, but I'm going to share just an example from town of Davidson. Town of Davidson, everybody knows, is not too far away, but certainly a very different kind of community. So, town of Davidson, these are just a couple of the things. So the town will treat people fairly, with courtesy and respect. Citizens entrust the government with the stewardship of funds, so the government will provide high-quality services at a reasonable cost. Economic health is essential. The town will encourage and guide location of new business opportunities. So those are some examples from the town of Davidson that they use that are example. Some of these are externally focused about the community, and sometimes they're internally focused about how you as an organization. So values can be both. Now I'll give you another example from Concord. We communicate openly with the public and each other, sharing information and soliciting feedback to each other. So that's a value. That's something that drives. So that would be another example. So just to give you a couple of examples from other communities. So if you have that can help inform how you do business, what might be policies that you set. So what I'd love for you all to do is, Lindsay, we just captured your idea up on the board here, just as an example. But the idea for values is we don't want to have 50, right, to try to, but we're really looking at some sort of, maybe it's things that you really value about how you behave as a city government, as a council, about how residents should feel living in the community, about what values, how you grow and develop. So I'm giving you sort of different domains of things that you might value here. So what I'd like you to do is to think about this. What do you value? What are the values that you hold, that you think collectively you as a council hold, that helps you think about how you grow, how you evolve as a community, how residents should feel in the community, how you behave or act? And so think about things that you believe other council members would share. And, you know, or things that just are really important to you. And so I'd like you to go ahead and put 3 or 4 things in the chat, and we're going to go ahead and put these up on the sticky notes here, and see if we can find some themes that seem to resonate with you. So any questions about what we want to do?
Yes, Warren. So I apologize again for asking basically the same question, but are we talking about values for how we want the city of Hendersonville government to function? Or
Yes.
values about, I don't know, that are personally important to me, for me and my family, I guess?
Yeah, this would be how values that you believe are important for this organization. You as a council, you as a government. I think you all bring your own personal values. I mean, they're not separate, you know?
Right.
You were elected because of the values that you bring. So I don't want you to disconnect them, but it's intended to focus on the organization.
Right.
Jeff, did you have a question?
No, that was Benny. Do you want several individual ones? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that'd be great, Jeff. Just individual text, that way we'll not separate the C's.
said 3, right, Warren?
Yeah. But
Okay.
you're a rule breaker, so if you,
No.
you want to go 4.
I don't wanna go 4. I'm trying to get the 3rd.
All right, does everybody have a chance to get theirs up here?
Yes.
Got thumbs up?
I'm sorry, I have.
Okay. So let's go through these, and I think if there's something that you hear that you question from someone else, or that maybe you're not quite on board with, this would be a good time to ask questions, speak up, so that you can really understand maybe how it's worded or what's behind it. So that would be really helpful. So, we started out with Lindsay leading the way. Just every citizen should feel cared for and valued by their community, by promoting diversity and equity. And just going through here, we've got one around respecting and paying employees fairly. Someone want to just say a little bit more about that one?
That was me. Can we kill our feedback? Hang on a minute here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
I just feel like any business, any entity at all, employees are paid at a level that is competitive to the other businesses, or in our case, municipalities out there. That's one piece of it, and feeling respected is the other piece of it. And then the delivery of services is usually even at a higher level. And it's just a much better, positive environment around that. And I think that's critical. We've discovered that we're behind in some groups. I think our emergency workers, fire and police for sure. And they still deliver a very high level. But I would just like to see us get where there's an impact. And if someone leaves, it's really not leaving for just a little bit more money somewhere else.
One of mine was very similar to that in supporting the employees. They're the ones that are out there providing those services. So we need to see that they have not just the pay, but the equipment they need, anything they need to better provide the services that they're the face of the city.
Thanks, Barbara. Did anyone else have anything directly around employees?
I did not, but Warren, you mentioned if we disagree with someone, say something, but if we agree, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, I think we're going to assume that silence is consent here.
Okay.
Yeah, or yeah, just a thumbs up is also helpful. Okay, so, again, as we go through this, we'll see if we can try to cluster some of the different commonalities you've got here. Go to this next one here. You've got deliver services at a high level to make people feel their taxes are being used effectively. So, say more about that one.
That would be me again.
Okay.
I mean, and it kind of marries up to my first one, but we struggle to grow our city. We can't go out and just annex folks. We know that. We even have some challenges now to the whole thing that when someone wants to bring them in. So what I would love to see in a perfect world for us is our service delivery, fire, police. You look at garbage, environment side, everything. All that be at such a level that people absolutely have no resentment for the taxes. Our taxes are low, we have to maintain that. But to be able to do the things that the city does at such a level, and I think we're very good at it now, the roads and stuff, that people actually kind of fight to live within the city, look for ways to live within the city, businesses to locate within the city, and us be able to manage that in a way that does not compromise quality of life there. The big thing is they're paying county taxes, they're paying city taxes. I really want them to appreciate the services they get from those taxes and be proud of the way council and all those that are actually doing the delivering services are doing it.
So it's about people valuing, you value having services delivered at a high level and that people believe their tax dollars are used well. Effectively. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have one that was similar to that? Or anybody have any questions for Jeff? Is that one that you all feel comfortable with? Got a thumbs up. All right, so we're going to assume if you're comfortable, you don't need to speak up. This next one, this may have been Jerry's. Is that right? Our goal is to make lives of all residents better. Say more. Was that yours, Jerry?
Can you read it to me again? I'm looking on post something, or is this from the chat?
Yeah, so this is, if you all look at the board, that might be to kind of.
Oh, yeah, I see, you paraphrase, yes, that's mine, sorry.
Yeah, tell us, just say more, what is it, what's the value that you have?
You know, the phrase that, I'm not sure if it's high tide or rising tide raises all ships, but, it's hard day in and day out to make decisions individually for people. Certainly, when they come by and pick up my trash and my recycling today, it's an individual benefit to me. But most of the things that we do are collective actions. It's a public policy goal, and we do it for anyone that it applies to that lives within the city. And so, I think one of the values has to be, I think everybody here does this, I just put it in writing, which is, through our collective actions, we are making a better life for folks. We are improving their standard of living and making things better for them, and whatever that means at that particular era of time in their life. So that our collective decisions, because I realize that sometimes individually a decision that we make, well, a good example was the discussion we had two afternoons ago, of the stormwater fees that we're going to charge, and that's a fee that the goal is to improve collectively the life for everyone in the city. So, that's not always easy because different people may carry more of the burden than other people, depending upon how this collective action takes place, but that we remember that the goal is to make the lives of everyone better through our collective action. Does that help explain that more?
Yeah, and so Jerry, when you say our collective action, do you mean collective action, are you thinking about collective action of the council specifically, collective action of all of everyone in the community, the council, your business partner?
Well, you asked us to focus on city governance.
Yeah.
So when I say collective action, I mean the city. So whether it's the city council, whether it's the public works department, that our collective action is the goal is to make life better. Not just to quote unquote get a job done, but ultimately to make life better. I think that vision is what helps, well, I'll say it helps me on a day in, day out basis when it seems like something you're doing may seem trivial or menial at the moment. But collectively putting those all together over time is making life better for the city. And I'll go back to the example of like today I have no question that my recycling and my garbage are going to get picked up, And I know that the people that are doing that job today at times probably feel like we maybe don't value that, but I really do because I don't have to think twice about it. That's important to me. So I think thinking of our collective action in that way is a value that's important.
One question for Jerry on that? Okay. Let's, we've got openly communicating with the public and each other. And so related to that, information about how the city, how it works, is available to all. So this open communication. All right, so I know somebody put this up here.
I think the first one might have been me. I asked if we could borrow the one from the example, because I really liked the way the example worded it.
We can't tell Concord, right?
Yeah, it was really all encompassing as far as communication, and I think, I was watching the chat as everybody was putting it in, I think every single one of us put something in about either communication or transparency or building trust. And so I think there's some way that we could kind of wrap all that up in a nice little package that talks about not just being transparent with the community, but being transparent with each other and having open communication with staff. And think that that helps, and I like the sharing information and soliciting feedback to achieve our goals. I think that that is such a huge guiding principle and value of what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
Yeah, so anyone else on this? You've got, a number of you've got some different ideas built around this.
I think staff is taking the lead in so many ways. Talking about transparency. We want people to be able to go on the website and just be able to see how their money is being used. What is happening. Way back when I first got on the council, that was part of it, because you just never knew what was going on or how a decision was made. People would come in, a motion was made, there was never any discussion. So I think we've come a long way in being more transparent to the community of how those decisions are made, why they're made, and what are the results of those decisions.
That's a great example. Great. Again, we know from polling nationally that people's trust in institutions has dropped quite a bit over the last couple of decades. So, that's a great value to articulate there. Got one around environmental sustainability woven into everything we do. Someone could say a little more about this one.
So I wasn't exactly sure how to word that, because I feel like it's pretty all-encompassing. Like, environmental sustainability can be a part of everything that we do, whatever policy or development is going on. And I think it's really important, especially now, that we have a focus on environmental sustainability. Are building a new building, we need to make sure that we put whatever measures we can in there to either protect, like Jeff said, protect the natural resources and the environment that we have, and we can put solar panels on it, or we can have a green wall, or some sort of water retaining feature. And so I think whenever we look at any project, we should look at it through the environmental sustainability lens to make sure that we've done everything that we can do.
Good, thanks, Lindsay. Questions about this?
I will not raise a question, but a comment, which is, I do think this is a change in government, in that I think, really because the EPA was developed by the federal government, we've kind of viewed these actions as actions that needed to come from the top and filter down. But I agree with Lindsay that we're at a stage in history where we have to start making some important decisions now, even if the sustainability issues we're looking at don't have an immediate impact in the four corners of the city of Hendersonville. We know there's obviously the larger world out there, and we have to take that seriously and not rely on state and federal forces to come in and do that for us. So I agree.
I think we can be an example. If we are considering these things, and we are doing things to our buildings to make sure they are, as energy efficient as possible, that we can show others. The things that have been done in Haddon Park, where we've got the examples of how to save water, how to keep the water in the it shows what can be done, and would hope citizens would take that to heart and do it themselves as well, citizens and businesses.
Yeah, and Jennifer, you know, that, and it becomes, you know, when you have a decision that you're faced with, that becomes a decision filter. You know, you ask yourself that question, right? As one of the, you know, one of the things that you know, decide your path forward. I'm going to come over to city government is apolitical. And Jerry, I think this might be, that might have been yours.
No, that was somebody else. Yeah, that was me.
So it's like, we value being apolitical, is what you're saying.
Yes, so, and I tried to, as best you can in a chat, explain what I mean by that. And I certainly, I'm not writing that to in any way claim that anybody in this meeting is not that, but you asked us for values.
Yeah.
I just think that, once again, what makes local government work is that when someone walks in the door to see us at a meeting, or sends us an email, or whatever it might be, that there's not this tinge of, well, I'm a Democrat, or a Republican, or I'm unaffiliated, or independent, or whatever, that affects how we do our jobs. And I think that we have to actively work to protect that, because that ultimately, I think, is what allows us to be trusted by our local community. And as I said in the comment, no one's expected to check their political beliefs at the door. It's just that when we are providing our services, when we're making our decisions, when we are meeting leadership teams and figuring out what we're going to do, you know, our goal is to satisfy, hopefully, the best standard of living we can in Hendersonville, and can leave our political affiliations at the door, which I think we do very well. I just think that in the climate we live in now, we, as Barbara said, have to kind of set the example of how to do that, so that on the day in and day out basis when we're doing our jobs, people know that it doesn't matter to me how you voted on a Tuesday in November, but it does matter to me what we're doing with regard to our city actions, and what can we do to make it better.
Other folks want to jump in on this one.
I'm not sure, we can't be apolitical in that we still have to deal with other political entities like the North Carolina General Assembly. And sometimes politics is involved in that. Nonpartisan, that's a phrase I prefer to use. We're not involved with either party's positions. We are a political entity, and we have to keep that in mind. But we shouldn't be tied up with any party's politics where it is concerned with how we serve our citizens.
I would agree. Nonpartisan would have been a better word, so I chose a bad word there, and not a bad word, but the wrong word. I meant nonpartisan, so I recognize for community. I meant nonpartisan. That's a better word, Barbara. Thank you for doing that.
Anyone else? Is this something that you think is important, that rises to something you would want to put up on that board?
I'll say that I do think this is important, but I also think that it's hard. It's really hard, especially now. We can conduct ourselves in that way, and we all know as a governing board that when we look at something, we're looking at it, you know, for what it is, and not through through a party lens. But I think it's hard to communicate that to the community and to the citizens. And so I think this is a really important value. I think it's one of the ones, though, that it's going to take the most work, and I think that it's going to take the most sort of thought into how do we make sure that we're fulfilling this value, and how do we become that example for the citizens in the community. And so I think that this one will be more of a hurdle than some of the other some of the other values that we've put up here.
It's a big one for me too, because I feel like, we can say all these great things about being nonpartisan, but ultimately, you have to represent where you've come from and where you've been and how you got here. And, that's one thing that I've tried really hard to do is to not be in debt to a party or to take money from parties or to allow them to kind of push or steer me in certain directions. And so this was a little bit of a struggle for me because it's not been that way in the past. And I think after the last election specifically, that election was became a very partisan election, and to me, it's shaping the way for future elections in the city, and I don't want to see them go there. And I try really hard to not allow that to affect my decisions. But, you have to lead by example, and I don't want to see the city elections become a partisan type thing. And I feel like they did, and so that's a big struggle for me.
Jennifer, is this one that you think is important? It's a tough one. Is it one that's important to put there as a?
For me, no, it's not hard for me to put it there, because I truly believe local decisions that affect our direct community are not right or left or Democratic or Republican. We are trying to do good things for the people that live here and, hopefully give them a good quality of life and make responsible decisions. And that to me is a human right, basic, ethical type decision. And so I don't think partisanship should be or isn't an issue for me, but I see it in slowly, and that's a big concern for me.
Yeah. A lot of pressure on this one, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure, I don't know how to explain it. I have my own personal values and opinions on how things should be done. And they tend to be more one party than the others, but that's separate from what I do on city council. But those are my values to it. But in all the years that I have served on city council, I have never had people come to me from either political party saying, you need to make this decision because this is how our party stands. I might have individuals saying, I believe this and I think you should be doing such and such. But it has never come down to, this is the position of this party and you need to toe the line. It has never been that. Yes, one party will probably support a particular candidate more than another, just from background. But it's never been a case where a party has said, this is the party position and this is how you have to support it. It's always, this is an individual, this is the way he or she stands on these particular issues. We will support that, but I don't think it's as big a problem as the concerns that are raised. It's just, for me, it's just not been an issue from a particular party.
Are you finished, Barbara?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, it's coming in and out here. I just want to make one comment to Jen's comment and then to Barbara's. So I think in my comment about nonpartisan, certainly no one can leave at the door their own personal feelings about how government should work. That's not possible. I mean, we weren't elected to be that way. So I recognize if you want to use the common vernacular of conservative, liberal, that kind of stuff, everybody walks in with those points of view. So I recognize that completely, and I don't think anybody expects anyone to not follow what their personal values are. And I also, to Barbara's comment, I agree, Barbara. The only reason I put that on there is I do think coming out of a very divisive year, which is any presidential election, our ability to maintain the course that we've been doing is good and important. So that's why I wanted to put that there, because I just maintaining that is, I think, an important part of what keeps our ability to keep the public's trust that we are really out there to benefit, or we are making our actions to benefit all people.
I agree. I think being nonpartisan, elected on a nonpartisan basis in the city is important.
If I may add something to this too. Not so much the Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative thing. The last city election, from my observation, was the first what I would call kind of a nasty election. There were attacks, pretty common, and to be honest, Jennifer was on the receiving end of some of those, which I thought were unfair. And that's the part that worries me as much as anything. And I think we as council members, if we see one of our fellow members being attacked unfairly, I think we have an obligation to speak up, and I certainly will. If I hear anybody attack Barbara, Jerry, Lindsay unfairly, I'm not going to be quiet. It's always been one of those things to me that we're supposed to just kind of sit back and let people speak. But if I hear something that I know is not true, I'm going to speak up about it, because I don't want that. All of you are right. We all bring something to the table. But I can honestly say, in the meetings, all the meetings I've been involved in, I've tried to make the best decision for the city, and I've tried to learn where I was weak. And Barbara, I have to tell you that I really enjoyed sitting and talking with you more. That has been an asset that we can, people may see us as a part, but I find you extremely easy to talk to, very wise, and I appreciate your counsel, and promises my time left on council that I will continue to do it as long as you'll let me in the room. So I think we all need to talk to each other. If we have differences, we need to just have a very constructive conversation, and then the partisanship goes away, if it was there to begin with, and we arrive hopefully at a compromise or just a good solid conclusion. And Barbara, you lead, like I said, with great wisdom and calmness, and we can all learn from that. We just need to be decent and civil. I want to see civility come back. I don't want nastiness, and especially under these city elections.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've enjoyed the one-on-one conversations I've had with all the council members, especially recently. We've just had more, maybe because we haven't been able to meet so much as a group, we've had these opportunities to meet individually. And that I think has been one good development coming out of this.
I'd like to add a comment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lindsay, I'll go after you.
Okay, I do want to circle back to what we're talking about, since we are specifically talking about the election that Jennifer and I were in. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, was we know that we conduct ourselves nonpartisan when we're making decisions. right? So we all have our own values we bring. Yes, they could be aligned with a particular party's values, but we make our decisions nonpartisan, and we know that. And our election was a nonpartisan election, but as the candidate in the election, in the time that it was happening, I don't know if Jennifer can agree with this or not, but it did not feel nonpartisan before a party even got involved. And so I think that's where we go back to the effective communication with the community and setting the example of how we meet with people who may have different values than us and how we come together and make decisions. And I know Jeff and I have talked about this before, because we certainly don't agree on everything, but it's important to be able to have that open communication. So this also kind of goes in line with the open communication and working together. And so I think it's just a tricky situation, and it's going to need a lot longer conversation than what we can do today. But I just think that as the national political climate got more and more divisive, it's harder to keep that out of this, no matter how badly we want to, because folks in the community are going to interject it and try to put all of us in little boxes and think that we think one way about one thing because we think another way about another thing. And I think we all know that all of us are very complex individuals, and we don't always think one particular way. And even if you were, like the mayor was saying earlier, a party has never come to me and said, this is what you need to vote, this is how you need to vote on this, and this is what we're going to do because this is what the party does. That's never been a thing that's happened, nor would it ever be. I would never toe a party line just because that's what they think they should do. I always look at everything through a nonpartisan lens around my values that I have as a person, because that's what people elected us. That made sense, because that was kind of a random.
Thanks, Lindsay. Let's go to Jerry.
Can I-
We want to move us
Okay.
to the next segment here.
Well, two things. First I'd like to say to Jen. Jen, you have had a couple since you've been on council where you've been personally attacked, and I've been absolutely appalled by that. And I have commented to other folks at the meeting like that is totally unfair. So I just wanted you to know that it is, I just think it's very bad form. Some of the things that have been said by the public to you at meetings, and I certainly don't condone that. And so I just wanted you to know that personally, that I think it's just not good form. And it's very divisive, and it doesn't help you do your job or help that person get something done on council. And then I do feel like we're kind of sharing things, and I'll just tell Jeff straight up. So in the years that we've been on council together, people talk to me outside of council, and many times people make comments to me, and I'm like, you guys really don't know Jeff though. I said, they see Jeff and they see obviously your role in the Republican Party, but I'm like, you guys really don't know him. I said, you would be surprised at how well we work together. We may disagree on some things, but you should not just say Republican Jeff and then whatever, disagree with him or cast him off. So, and I'm hoping, I just want to tell Jeff that personally, that as many times that I've done exactly what you said, which is, you really don't know that person that well. We do on city council is something different than national or state politics. So, just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'm going to move us. We just had a couple more, I think, that you put up here. There are a couple different that go together. So thriving economic opportunity to encourage and help small business and entrepreneurship. So as a value, we value this. And then potentially some others that might be related. Educate our community to give opportunity and responsible growth, to give all our residents, to give success to all our residents. So these may be separate, they may be some individual ideas, but can you speak to those who attack? Can you speak to these?
mindful of that as we continue to grow.
Yeah, and when you say responsible, and you've given some examples of responsible, but maybe just say, what would be an example of what's not responsible growth?
I think irresponsible growth would be continuing to encourage or just encouraging a certain substandard or a certain standard of living, because that standard of living is not the same for everybody in this community. And so we just have to understand that there are tiers of, the way that people live and what they can afford, and that we need to not just kind of pigeonhole one type of standard of living here, and that, keeping it open for a broad, I don't know what the word is, but that would be the opposite of irresponsible, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Great, thanks, Jennifer.
May I comment on Jennifer's last comment?
Yeah, please.
I think that's a really good observation, that you have to grow all sectors of the economy for everyone to benefit. And so if we're only working to benefit one sector and expecting to trickle down to happen, that's probably not good public policy. So I agree completely. Figuring out a way to help all sectors of the economy is a very good way to approach that particular value that you wrote about.
Connors, John, Connie, can you capture that comment, please, about all segments of the community? Thank you.
Great, thanks, John. Any other questions? The thriving economic opportunity is, Jennifer, that was not yours, right? Or was that?
That was mine.
Lindsay, yeah. And again, these may not be the exact same, but just say a little more about this.
So I know last year, whenever we had our retreat, we talked about, how can we encourage entrepreneurs to come here? How can we encourage thriving small businesses? And, starting a business can be hard, and it takes a lot of investment and a lot of sacrifice. And so I think, to piggy off sort of what Jennifer was saying, was that we need to make sure that we're making it accessible for everyone to come here and live. Because one thing for me is that our economy, one of the 4 big parts of our economy in this county is the service industry, and tourism. And so people who work in the service industry and tourism don't hardly make any money at all. I mean, servers are still making $2.13 an hour, and I was making $2.13 an hour like 10 years ago. So their pay has not changed, but the cost of living here has gone up and up and up. And I think the reason why we have such an amazing community is because of the folks that are in the workforce here. I mean, that's why we have such great healthcare, and that's why we have such a great police department and fire service and, retail, and restaurants to go and eat at. And so I think everything is still seeing semi-imbalance now, but eventually if the cost of living gets too high, we're gonna lose the good employees that are in the workforce, in the service industry, in healthcare and education. And that means our services and our quality of life are gonna go down. And so I think that's a huge, this is probably one of the biggest things that we need to focus on. Because if we don't get this whole housing cost of living thing somehow under control, then we're gonna lose what makes living here so amazing.
Thanks, Lindsay. I want to get one more, there was one more that we captured here. Be open to change. Value being open to change, circumstances change.
That was mine.
Thanks, Ron. Has anything changed in the last year?
Yeah. And I think we are good at that. But I think it's important to recognize that we shouldn't, it's not that, well, we've always done it that way. This, again, the staff and what they have done to at how we held meetings and all. It's not something we're not doing. I just think it's important that we recognize we have to be willing to make some changes, sacrifice maybe one comfortable way of doing it to try something new.
Yeah, you've done a lot of adapting and typically people don't think about government perhaps as, having to adapt quickly, and you've had to adapt as, an incredible amount. So if we, as we wrap this conversation up, we've just been capturing some themes here around what are some of the values here. And we've been taking some notes, just values around we support employees, delivering services at a high level, valuing citizens and residents through promoting diversity and equity. City government is nonpartisan, improving our citizens' lives and protecting them through collective action, environmental sustainability, providing opportunity and pursuing responsible growth, open and transparent communication and trust with the community and each other. These, again, this is just kind of a quick theming of the ideas that you came up with, but there is a lot of commonality. There's a lot that you, as you talk through these, that you agree. And again, having these explicit to refer back to can help guide you, can also help guide staff too, as they bring things to you and seek direction from you. But any other questions? We want to give you a break because once you've been on a Zoom for over 90 minutes, you need to get up. But any questions as we close this conversation?
Warren, can I make one comment?
Please.
I just want to tell my bosses how proud I am of the conversation we just had the last 90 minutes. When we set up this exercise, didn't really know how it would go. And I'm just proud of how vulnerable you were and how honest you were with each other. And it was a great conversation. When I opened this morning talking about restorative, this is what I wanted to happen, and this is what I want to happen in our community. I've got several texts this morning from our team about what a great conversation you had and what great leadership you showed this morning. So I just want to say thank you what you did in the last hour and a half, because we have lots of new team members, as you know. And this exercise is important to me because our vision and mission statement and our priorities were set by a different council. And I wanted this council to have ownership into something that we can use to guide us going forward. And we've done that this morning. So just thank you. I'm not going to belabor the point. We've got some great things to talk next couple of hours, but just thank you. And the mayor has a great lead into my next section about change, but I'll hold that to after the break. But I'm proud to work with the 5 individuals that serve on our city council. And I know the rest of our staff feel that way this morning. So thank you.
So I think this would be a good time for a break. Is 10 minutes enough, or do you want a little more time?
10's fine.
10's good? All right, we're going to put up a little timer here on the screen for 10 minutes, and then we'll see you all back for our next segment on big ideas. Thank you all. Zoom just quit and then it restarted, so. It's back. If we have, we're waiting for Lindsay.
Disappointed that we didn't get Joey Fagel this morning. Just gonna put that out there.
Me too. I agree.
Makes me a little sad.
Very true. Although I'm close enough, I could have walked down and got one, but I was too lazy.
I'll make it up to you.
All right, John, you want to kick the next segment off?
Yeah, so I'm going to be quick here. So the mayor set the tone just a minute ago about change. So I'm going to quote from the great American classic, "Who Moved My Cheese?" The great American. So I had planned this even before I knew the mayor would talk about change, but just want to, change happens. It's a great. Those of you may or may not be familiar with it. It's a great book that we've used in our team meeting, talking about how not to get complacent and to move forward with change and be prepared for change. And just ask you to think about our characters, who sniffs out change early or scurry, who scurries into action, or him who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Hall, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changing will lead to something better. So I encourage us all to look at the handwriting on the wall that change happens. We need to keep moving the cheese. We need to anticipate change, get ready for the cheese to move. We need to monitor change, smell the cheese, make sure it's not getting moldy. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker we let go of the old cheese, the sooner you'll enjoy the new. Change, move with cheese, enjoy change, savor the adventure, and enjoy the taste of the new cheese, and be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again and again. We're going to keep moving the cheese. So I think this discussion this morning is all about moving our cheese, and I'm looking forward to it. So Warren, we can jump right in and look at our big audacious ideas that the city council has suggested we talk about this morning. So.
Yeah, so John, can you just say a little more about what kind of guidance that would be helpful, just a little more about why this is such an important, point to spend time on at the retreat?
Yeah, so over the last year, as we've not been able to do a lot of things, I've talked to all 5 of the council members about a variety of things that are interest of you, that you would like for the city to consider doing and moving forward in. So I felt like it was important for you to share these ideas with your fellow council members so that we can have a discussion. We're not asking for final decisions today, but really just do these ideas with your fellow council members. Are there things that, as a group, as a group of 5, that your staff to spend time on? Because, as you know, there's a lot going on, and so we only want to over time prioritize these. Is this something you want staff spending time and resources going forward? So, but I thought it was a good opportunity, at least first, for just to talk through the ideas, and then maybe at the end, if we could, if some have merit to continue to discuss as a group, we can. If they don't, if we don't feel like that these are appropriate times to deal with these, just let us know so that we can prioritize our work as we go forward in the budget and in the coming year. Because some of these things are multi-year projects, and will take resources and time, and we want to make sure we're prioritizing our time in a way that the entire city council supports and wants us to be spending our time and our resources. So really, the idea is to talk through some of these so that we can set goals and develop our work plan for the coming years.
All right, so thanks, John. I'm going to share my screen again here. And I've seen all of these ideas, and I'm going to start walking through these. And so what we want to do is go through these ideas one at a time. The person who put this one out there, the council member who put this idea out there, just say a little more about why this is important, and then we just want to have a discussion about just with each of these about what you see as the benefits or maybe what might be, the downsides or challenges, so that when it comes time to saying, hey, this is something we should put at the very top of the list or make a priority now, we've had a bit of discussion first. So we'll go through each of these, ask each person who put the idea forward to say a bit about it, have some discussion. We'll capture those notes, and then we'll do a bit of sorting about what you believe to be the most pressing of these priorities that you want to give guidance to the staff on. So I'm going to start with this first one, narrowing of King Street. So these are in no particular order. Narrowing of King Street to enhance sidewalks, slow down traffic, provide additional landscaping. So I'd love to have the person who put that forward to say a little more about why this is a big idea, why this is important for the city to pursue.
Yeah, well, that's mine. That's been one of my pet projects for years. I don't know that it'll ever get done, but as we're developing more on the east side, the mill redevelopment, the connection to 7th Avenue, to the Greenway, all of that. King Street, 3 lanes, it's how fast can we get through? On Church, at least we have the parking, we have some hanging baskets, things that sort of connect the west side to downtown. For the east side of King, you've got just 3 lanes of traffic. And when we've looked at the number of vehicles, for whatever reason, the number of vehicles traveling on King Street is fewer than the number of vehicles traveling on Church Street. And I've just always thought if we narrowed it for the most part to 3 lanes, and if you've ever tried to walk, you can't because there are a couple blocks where the buildings just are right on the street. So there's no way of putting in that sidewalk connection. But if we could narrow it, and I'm not talking about putting additional parking there. I'm narrowing it, making it more of a parkway look with additional landscaping. It would slow traffic down a little bit and maybe help bring the development on the east side closer to downtown.
And so Barbara, can you just, your perspective, this is an important, just a sense of why this should be something to move forward sooner rather than later?
Well, I've talked about it for a long time. So I'm bringing,
Yeah.
I know we have to work with DOT, that's always a challenge. We will have to put money into it, that's a challenge. I think it would enhance the downtown and the connectivity to the east side.
Hey, Barbara, may I speak to that just a second?
Sure.
I've been looking, I guess you're talking about the buildings that you can't even.
Can't put a sidewalk.
Yeah, if you look right at, I think it's between, John, and it's between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, you and I talked about it. That's where that thrift store is on the left, across from Housing Assistance, new office, and then there used to be a bike store there. Now I think it's
Cycles was. And
Right.
a tap room or something.
yeah, right there, that block coming in from First, to Second, that's where it splits the 3 lanes, right? You can merge into the 3rd lane that continues up if you turn left on 64 to go west. I would love to see whenever they do the resurface, if we could take that block right there and take that left lane, keep it 2 lanes right there. That would open up that whole side to some nice landscaping, a sidewalk. Then let it merge back into the 3 lanes after it gets up in front of the parking lot there between 3rd and 4th Avenue to where it could split, because I think it's gonna have to split in some fashion to have 3 lanes as you come up to turn, go to 64 west or keep going on 25.
Right,
What
I
would you think?
have no objection to that last block or something, but I think before that, we could do 2 lanes.
Do it leading up to the, you want to do it, you want to take the 3 lanes that exist and bring them down to 2 lanes all the way to 64, or just do more narrow the 2 lanes coming from, I guess, the very south end of King Street all the way up to where the lanes go to 3.
Now, I'm talking about eliminating the 3rd lane most of the way, and not all the way, but at least through, 4th, where we're at connection over to, the east side. If that, maybe even partway down the block, it could go back to 3, but,
Where would you say it go back to 3? That's what I'm not.
maybe between 4th and 5th place.
Oh, you froze.
No, it would take engineering and
What happened?
yeah, and figure out the best
Jeff, are
way.
you with us? Jeff, can you hear us?
I think we lost Jeff and Jennifer.
That would be the revolving internet gremlin that floats around Hendersonville during the day. I'm familiar with that gremlin. And that's actually my suggestion, when we get to it, is to talk about broadband.
All right.
Because it's
Well, I didn't hear where you
too much.
said.
Yeah, we just lost you, but now you're back. All right.
Yeah,
go ahead,
all I
Jeff.
heard was, right when you were gonna tell me where you wanted to widen it, you froze.
Your place.
And you froze again.
Yeah, it needs some looking at engineering, but I'd like to use it as a way of enhancing the connection. That's why I'd like to leave it at 2 lanes with, landscaping in that beyond 4th Avenue, so that 4th Avenue can be a good connection over to the farmer's market, to 7th Avenue, to the Greenway, all that sort of thing. That's my picture of it, but, it would take a lot in some traffic, studies and things like that, so.
Okay, because I'd sure like to get that 1 block done for sure, where
Yeah,
there could be a sidewalk there.
I support that. I love this idea. As someone who's been
Yeah.
on King Street, exactly where Jeff was talking about, I think slowing people down would be great. I also think that as we move forward with trying to bring 7th Avenue and the Main Street districts more together, I think this is a step towards that.
I would agree. I will say, thinking about where to keep the 3 lanes, it is a harrowing experience to pull out of the City Hall parking lot to start with. So I really appreciate that 3rd lane pulling into that, at least heading back to my house.
Yeah, try to pull out a Miller Farm.
Yeah, well, I do that as well.
Yeah, I know.
That 3rd lane is needed. That 3rd lane is needed right there.
Yeah, thank you.
So our intent here is to capture the concept concept, the idea, make sure people understand it, just, make your pitch for why this is important. And then going with all these ideas is we want to take them and we want to put them into one of these buckets, ultimately. So when we go through all these ideas, this is what we want to do, to get a sense of where you collectively put each of these ideas. So again, we don't have specific budget numbers or details associated with these, but just to give your staff some guidance. If this is something you think is a priority, you want real work getting done this year, you put in that right bucket. If it's a nice to do, if we've got the resources, the ability, if things can come together, be in that middle bucket. And if you feel that this is not an urgent thing, we want to capture that. So that's what we're trying to do with all these ideas, is to fill them up. If they're in the priority, then you'll have to do some more prioritization. So if everything's a priority, then that's a challenge for staff. So that's where we're headed with this. If you all tell me you want to put it in the priority bucket, we'll go ahead and do that, or we can table it until we come back at the end.
Are we gonna prior,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead, Lindsay, excuse me, you go ahead, you first.
I was gonna say, I almost feel like we should put it in the priority, especially since we have to work with NCDOT. I mean, who knows how long that's gonna take.
I just have a question, Warren, which is.
Yeah.
So we're gonna prioritize them as we go through them, as opposed to prioritizing them at the end. I'm just saying, is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah, just, I think that with our time, why don't we do this? Why don't we go through these, and then we'll come back and we'll try to sort them all out. That way, I think it might be harder than because when you come at the end, you might see that everything is in one column. So let's go through these all first, and then we'll come back and sort. But be thinking about which of these columns you think they should go in.
Hey, Warren, one thing to say is exactly what Lindsay said. I think this one has to be an automatic priority because it has to coincide with the changes with DOT. So, plus the mayor wants it, so that does give it a certain amount of clout too.
Thank you.
Connor, let's duplicate this. Let's duplicate it and then go ahead and place it in that right-hand bucket. So we want to keep the notes next to it. All right. So let's go to improve appearance and signage and cleanliness of the US 64 corridor.
That's me. So this was something that I kind of spoke about last during our budget retreat also. And the city has actually taken so many great steps already in kind of cleaning up some of those side areas. I know that we're working on some of the trail, the Waha Trail running underneath. Rebecca McCall with the county commissioners is kind of watching the community countywide
something very similar.
Yep,
That,
that's good.
that we needed to work on 64. Now that's where so many people come into town. It should be attractive, welcoming, drawing people in.
And so this is something that, would you consider this to be, something that can have a high impact, relatively easy to do, or what's your sense of the level of effort of this?
Personally, I think with a lot of the partnerships that we have, I don't think it would be that hard to do. I mean, just partnering with DOT, partnering with nonprofits in town, owners to invest into that property. I think it's just about encouraging and communicating the right way.
So again, as we,
I had mine cut off.
so again, as we go through these, if you tell me to put this in, make it a priority bucket now, I'll go ahead and we'll put it in there. Otherwise, we'll just keep moving. So, unhoused population, affordable housing. Tell me about what you'd like to achieve here.
I'm assuming that this is mine, even though we've all sort of talked about affordable housing. I feel like unhoused population and affordable housing kind of go hand in hand. And like with the unhoused population, we really don't have as many accessible resources as I think we could have for them. We have several great resources in town, but they're not always the right fit for some folks. I think it also goes hand in hand with addiction treatment and how accessible those services are for people. A lot of people who suffer from addiction also suffer from home. And so I think as our population grows and as we see more people coming here, and because of our temperate climate, we do see an increase in our unhoused population as well. And so I think that going to have to do with not just services, but also our ability to lead by example and changing the conversation around the unhoused population. I know some of us have received emails about folks on Main Street, and the issue is never, oh, what's causing these people to suffer from homelessness? It's more, how can we move these people off of Main Street? And so I think really the conversation needs to be about how can we help these folks, and why are they suffering from this? And so some of the lack of affordable housing here. I mean, not just the housing market, but the rent market is insane. When we moved here, rent was like $875, and now it's $1,100, and we didn't get any additional services or nothing was changing other than they could just raise the rent. And the housing has gone up, I think the housing cost 7% in the last year, 7% in 1 year. I mean, it's crazy. And I know that a lot of it has more to do than it does with housing costs. Housing costs are gonna go up. And especially too, like Jennifer said, our area is so desirable. So it makes sense that the costs will go up, but the rate at which housing costs are going up and the rate at which folks are being able to be paid and afford to live here are not the same. And so I really think that I know we can sit around and we can wait for a developer to come to us with a project that's for affordable housing, but I think that that's kind of waiting for a unicorn to come and find us, because most developers are in business to make money, like most people that are in business. And so you don't make as much money on with these projects. And so I think it's really kind of on us to go out and find, property. I know of at least one property right now that I think we could work with housing assistance and develop that into some more affordable living. Because like I mentioned earlier, the service industry and the workforce, it's also the retirement community. When my mother-in-law was looking for somewhere to live as someone on disability and Social Security, it's really hard to find adequate housing. As you can tell, this is a big issue for me, so I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you. Just again, if someone has questions or, just again, want to add about why this should be a priority and what what you hope to achieve
topics. And, you know, a question that has few answers that have been able to solve this problem historically and since the Industrial Revolution. I think the unhoused population issue is a very difficult social problem to solve in any American city, because there's so many things that go into this that don't relate to the cost of home, but rather relate to a person's ability to be stable in employment and in family and things of that nature. So I agree completely, Lindsay, with the focus. I don't know what, from the city's point of view, I don't know what ability we have as far as influencing that particular issue because DSS is not under our control. I'm personally game to investigate. I do think that involves, as you mentioned, mental health services and some aspects of life that are not traditionally, at least not now, city services that we provide. But I think it's a noble task that we take on. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not sure there is a solution. There is a way to get to a point where we can deal with what it is. We'll deal with the problem in whatever state it is. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what John calls it, what do you call it, John? A wicked problem. And it is a wicked problem. I don't know, I think right now, short term, the best thing we can do is advocacy for those programs that would help these folks, and also working on changing that narrative. And so if, someone comes to us to talk about unhoused population and how can we help them, and it's going to take everybody. It's not going to be just on us. It's not just on DSS and the county. It's a group community effort. And I think that no one glaring solution that I've seen someone come up with, but that doesn't mean that we can, as a council and as a community, think outside the box and be the folks that come up with that solution or come up with something that can help with that. So I think for me, what I would like to see is just more emphasis on the things that we do and how they may affect the population, and also us just changing that narrative.
If I may speak for a minute, the last 11 years, I've been working with veterans, homeless veterans, a group over in Asheville called ABCCM, and this particular place is the VRQ, the Veterans Restoration Quarters. And we've worked with them in every way, from helping them develop a culinary program that AB Tech teaches on their campus, but over 200 churches came together and bought an old hotel. And at any given point, they've obviously had to reduce the numbers because of COVID. There have been 250 homeless veterans, males, in this facility at any given time. You can stay there for 2 years. Yes, it is Christian-based, but they do not force, any religious particulars of a religion on them. They make them available, but you do have to be responsible. They do breathalyze, they do these things each night. But while you're there, it's not just a roof over your head and meal. During the time you're there, if you have substance abuse, any issues like that is being addressed. A lot of it is handled at the VA. When you're at a point where they see that you can handle some training, we have a truck driving school on the campus. We have a culinary school on campus. They have working with nursing. They not only get you into these classes and stuff, they help you have, if you haven't had scrubs, things like that. And when you leave, you have a job. That's when you leave, and it is a living wage, and they work out a place for you to live. And this program is unbelievable. Outcome-based on it is, 80-something% get jobs and go through the program. And if if you go back and check over a year later, close to 90% still have their jobs. That's a program that is worth looking at and encouraging in some ways. They just built this new facility because so many homeless veterans now are women and children with the women. And so they just built this new facility that we helped put all their linens, and when I say we, it's Honor Flight. It started out as Honor Air. That's one of our things. We buy Christmas presents for all their residents every year. But that program is something to witness, and if you'd ever like to go over there and see what I'm talking about, I'd be glad to take a group when we get through this COVID mess. Thank you.
Again, just capturing, the idea of looking at other successful programs that you could replicate or support. So, anything else on this idea?
Yes, so John, when Ben was here, didn't he put together something to help with this?
Yep, so we had a committee that was meeting regularly. We started with the nonprofit, the Mission Thrive, the nonprofit groups, and right before COVID, we had brought in the churches as a coordination piece, and we were meeting in person, and COVID hit, and we stopped meeting. I've actually had some churches reach back out, and I hope to get that group back together and start having these conversations again about what we can do. We put together, when we were meeting, we put together a resource guide that we can hand out to the homeless about where to get a variety of resources that. We also put a quick response team together, so we did have to break up a homeless camp. Before we did that, we would, like if our staff was going to break up homeless camp, we would call service providers to go meet with the homeless, to try to get them into a shelter or get them services, right? So we were making some headway on that. We need to restart the committee. We're coming out of COVID. I'd love to take them and show them the veterans facility, but I think we were making some headway by talking to the churches, because we were having issues with the one-offs of the churches, and we were trying to build a collective. The next goal was for all of us to come together and bring the churches and nonprofits and everybody together to develop some real solutions as a community versus this church doing one thing, that church doing another thing, that church. So that's where we were. But Ben did a little bit of the work of building a community program, but COVID kind of stopped that. Everybody got busy doing COVID, and churches stopped meeting their doors and those kind of things. So.
And I guess, John, too, my point, and maybe I didn't make it, is it's great to get people out of the rain and everything, but the goal should be, there's a reason they're homeless, to find out what the reason is, address it. They have to be willing to work with it. If you're not willing to go by the rules, there's not a place there. Patients in dealing with mental health issues, substance abuse, and then give them the tools to go out and make a living wage. And then there's usually someone like housing assistance, somebody you work in conjunction with to help find homes if they want to be in this area. And sometimes people want to go back where they were from, and they even work with them in other areas to get them back, even putting them on buses to go back. But it's got to be the bigger picture. It's not just group or meal.
That's
So
right.
you just pretty much enable the whole thing over and over.
Jeff, those are the difficult discussions we were having with some of the church folks. So that's what the churches just want to do. Just want to do one-time meals and one-time shelter. And we were having the conversation that that's why Thrive was there. That's why the mission was there. We had lots of these service providers that really talk through the bigger issues. It's much more than, so I agree.
Maybe Scott Rogers, who heads up ABCCM, could meet with some of the churches here. I mean, if they pulled 250 churches and they got them to all agree on something, that in itself was a miracle. Just to get 250 churches to agree on something. And they have been incredible in their execution. Not perfect, but in my opinion, my 10, 11 years with them have just been amazing. I'm very proud to work with
Warren,
Yeah.
even though these two issues are related, I think they're two very different issues with
Okay.
different approaches. I would suggest splitting that into the separate issues.
Okay, we'll make those two. All right, we'll do that. Let's go ahead and we'll move to the next item. And Connor, let's go ahead and just have the other sticky note right next to it. Great, okay. So we've got a couple of ideas around council member safety, council member security. So say a little bit more about this.
Warren, can I jump in on these two?
Sure.
I put this on here on a couple count, and we talked about it a little bit in the earlier session regarding personal attacks and those kind of things. Between the break, Angie Deacon and I had a conversation. So some of this is, Angie would suggest that we have conversations individually with council members and that we could give you some resources to deal with the idea between threat and free speech, particularly on social media. And Angie may want to jump in here if I get too far out of bounds, but I think ultimately some school of government guidance and information that we can do, that we can provide you regarding the free speech standpoint, and the personal attacks that we're seeing on social media, those kind of things. As it relates to city council meeting security, I'm just checking in with the council. Obviously, well, not obviously, but we have a law enforcement officer at the meetings, and it'll be a little bit better security when we move back to operations because we have multiple access points that begin with council. And the council members that have talked to me about this, if you want to talk more about it and have questions, but I just want to make sure the council feels like we're doing enough to provide a secure atmosphere to have a productive meeting, protect everybody involved in our meetings when things get heated. So, and I know Chief Mahan is listening, so he can also take back any feedback. So let me stop right there and see if council has comments or feedback.
I'll speak up. I will say that, I completely support free speech and, all those things. And I've got a pretty tough shell, so I can deal with a lot of, personal attacks. But I think for me, like, this year, my home and my business were threatened. And, to have to walk and pick up my children from school with a police officer watching is scary to me, and it should never happen to anybody. And so, I'm open to whatever resources that you have, just learning how to handle that type of thing better. And, and just hopefully, once again, just educating the community on what we do and what we have control of, and that we are huge people. And, Jerry had a really good comment earlier. It doesn't matter who you voted for on November 4th or whatever, we are all human beings and deserve to be respected, and to be safe. I mean, ultimately, you don't have to respect my decisions, and you don't have to even like me. But I deserve to live here safely and raise a family here as well.
Any other comments on these?
Yeah, so first of all, I really appreciate there being a uniformed officer at the everybody can see. And I know that sometimes the officers, maybe like, well, keeping me up later, whatever that might be. But I just want to let Chief Mahan know that I really appreciate everybody sees as a uniformed officer during the meetings. So I appreciate that, and I felt much safe about being in meetings because they're there. I would not want to change that. I don't think we're talking about changing, but I just want to express that.
And so, John, it sounds like this one may just go ahead and move straight over to that now bucket.
Yeah, or however you want to, that's something we'll continue to do. When it comes to prioritization, and we're already doing it, so it could go farther down on the, just keep doing it, but, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Improved water quality of Mud Creek. That's a big idea.
That was mine.
All right.
Mud Creek, the Rotary Club, we used to clean Mud Creek until a couple of years ago when the water quality reports came out and got the coliform in there and nobody wanted to get back in Mud Creek and clean it out. Some of the reasons we've got the problems is upstream, outside the city limits, of septic tanks that are not adequate. That's my understanding. I don't know, since it's not in the city limits, what we can do. I'd like to at least look into this and see what we can, what possibilities there are to raise that quality. I mean, it flows down through the city. That's along the greenway. That's where people walk, and it's something I'd like to consider. Anything we can do about it.
Other questions about this? Comments?
I think it's a great idea, and I think, Mountain True is a really good organization. I think that we actually underutilize their resources, and we have a local Mountain True we could really start communicating more with, and again, just like a litter campaign, and hopefully, once again, leading by example, right? Like with the city of Hendersonville is starting to do these things, and maybe other communities in the county will kind of join in. I know the county has actually already identified, litter and beautification as kind of an issue, and so hopefully it's just like a joint effort that needs to bring.
Thanks, Jen.
It's more than just the litter, it's the actual quality. So I know our top priority, but I think it's something we should be following up on.
And I'll just add that from city council perspective, one of your goals, because you talk about lead by example, one of the things that council adopted a resolution to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. And so we have to look at ourselves and take responsibility, because some of the fecal coliform could very easily be, or I'm not going to say could, it's most likely coming from sanitary overflows from the city. And we are designing a project to improve or replace the sewer line, the main sewer line from south. It runs through the city to the wastewater plant, which we know is a critical line and is over capacity now when it rains. So happy to announce that we're approved by the state for a low interest loan to go ahead, and that'll go immediately into design to move that project forward. So I think it's a great point that we lead by example, and do our part to clean up the water quality in Lake Creek.
Okay. I'm going to go over to city elections, even or odd years.
That would be me. Jeff. This is not something I'm here to try to beat down anybody's throat. I just want a discussion, and that's what it has been for a while. And it comes from, I think, it really came back in 1971. The state legislature decided to move municipal elections to odd years to separate them from federal state elections, as municipal elections primarily are, and they wanted to avoid the confusion, so they separated them. Now, over the years, there have been some groups, some municipalities, a lot, I think maybe 5, that had chosen to go back to even years, and their representatives to the state had gotten that done. It's just a local bill. But what brought it up to me, and I'm going to pull it up, Brian, do you have that slide that you could share?
Yes. Brian, you want to share screen?
Yeah, give me 1 moment, I'll pull it up.
Okay.
And this will show you, it's abysmal, the voter turnout for the city election. And that's really what kind of struck me. And I started wondering if we just put it in with the even years, people were there to vote, if they would do it. So the numbers you're going to see, or the chart you'll see, remembering that even in odd years are when we have city elections, even years are the big elections. And the graph there, it will only reflect the number of people that voted inside the city, because there were no city candidates on that list.
Jeff, sorry, give me a moment. For some reason, the image isn't pulling up as I sent it, so I'm gonna.
And it's okay, and if it doesn't, I have it here, and I can just read them off.
Give me one more try, and I'll see if we can get it up.
Okay, no worries. While he's doing that, it's kind of flip-flop, the nonpartisan piece and partisan, the partisan being the even years. Originally, the judges were all partisan, then they switched to nonpartisan. So they were on the partisan ballots for a while, now they are partisan. But also on the even years, which is supposed to be the partisan ballot, you have school board, which is nonpartisan. So it's gone back and forth. There's us involved. There you go. If you'll look at 2014, an even year, 3,805 city residents voted. Now there's 10,639 as of this year. 10,639 residents in the city that are registered to vote. So you see 2014, 3,805, 2015, 550 people voted for the city election. 2016, 6,186, 2017, 1,260. 2018, even year, 5,711, odd year 2018, 1,752, and 2020, 8,179. Now, there's no guarantee if we did switch them that everybody that goes to vote for the big election on the even years is going to make it all the way to the bottom of that ballot. It will be a very long ballot with, you got to really want to get down to the end of it. Now there again, I think that all depends on the media and the city through social media, making sure people are aware of the candidates, getting out, working hard, telling people to to go vote. I mean, it definitely will make it somewhat tougher on a candidate. I think Lindsay and I were talking, she said there'd be a lot of noise, she was right. Lord knows there was a lot of noise. But I also think that there's a possibility that if you are there at the polling place, it's a better chance you'll vote if you're there than if you're at home. I mean, you look at those numbers, the trend is obvious. So I'm just throwing it out there to consider this. Some people put it up on, I guess, the Hendersonville site just to throw it out there to poll it. And they told me the large majority wanted to switch to even elections, but that was without a lot of discussion. Just, something out there for social media people to digest. So I just want to start a discussion. To further comment, I need to point out that, and both of the local papers have covered this, some of the districts, some of the municipalities are broken up into districts where the candidates have to be from, their council members. City of Hendersonville is not done by district, nor is Long Park. But the way I understand Flat Rock, Mills River, and Fletcher are. Now those are based on census data. And they had anticipated, everybody didn't anticipate COVID. How COVID is complicated, gathering the census data, getting it in, then disseminating that information and breaking it into districts, so you have to tweak them after that. So they were hoping that they might get it in by April. I was told, in talking with Karen Head, and she had just gotten off the phone with Raleigh, because I've been bugging her to death, that the census data doesn't look like it's going to be in until September. So there is a very real possibility that the municipal election until the even year, 2022. Now some could say that, wow, well, why not borrow Farmersville? Just go ahead and have theirs. That's not how they're talking about doing it. They want them all or nothing. That's not our decision. That's the state's decision. So they'll decide it. So that further complicates it. So I think I've covered everything to open it up for just a discussion. I've had people tell me that it's really, we'll just lose everything in even years. But in my opinion, if you look at the turnout in these odd years, we have already lost. It's already lost. There is no drive to vote. So it's, I'll just turn it over now. You guys bang around and see what you think.
So I think our intent here would not be to make a decision on this, but to say, is this something you want to put to the top of your list to make a decision this year?
Right, this is not about a decision at all.
Yeah.
But I did want to make sure everybody knew about it. There's a real chance that we won't have a say in it again in 2022, that board of elections, state board of elections may have to do it because they can't do what they need to do prior to that.
Any other questions or comments about this one?
I'll speak up.
Oh,
Well, go ahead, Jennifer, and then over to Jerry.
no, go ahead, Jen, go ahead. It's fine.
Having run an election where I think I knocked on, I don't know, 10,000 doors, and then seeing that 10% essentially of those people voted, it is a little bit discouraging that can't get better voter turnout. And I knew that there was a big difference in the turnout, but seeing those graphs, just like, oh my gosh, I can't
agree with getting more voices heard. I just don't think that changing to even year elections is the best way to go about doing that. And I'm totally aware, Jeff, of the state, may make this discussion moot with regard to 2022 or 2021 with regard to the problems with the census and the various municipalities that vote by, which is obviously doesn't include us. I think a couple things for me. Number one, I think should we get included with the even year elections? Number one, we're at the end of the ballot, which I think you mentioned, which is a long ballot. Number two, I realize that the school board is on the same election schedule, but I do think it tends to make our election, even if we're the stated nonpartisan, it makes it more partisan, certainly in a presidential election year. So I think it just creates the potential that it becomes more partisan because in an election, otherwise everything else basically is partisan. I also think there's some practical concerns. I talked to the Board of Elections about this. So, a couple of precincts in Henderson County in which the precinct encompasses the county, it encompasses the city of Hendersonville, and I want to say one of them was also Flat Rock, but I may have that wrong. So in other words, within that precinct, there would have to be 3 different ballots if the municipal elections, ours were held the same year as an even year election. So there's a practical side of that would happen for some of the precincts in Henderson County if we were also on the ballot because of the way our precincts line up or don't line up with the boundaries of the city of Hendersonville. I also think that if you were the person who unfortunately drew the year that it's a presidential election and you're a new candidate and you're trying to be heard, I think that's a much greater challenge in the year of a presidential election than it would be otherwise. And certainly much more difficult than it would be to be heard, new candidate, in a odd year election when you're not competing. I'll also just say, once again, considering the unbelievably large amount of political signs that were posted this past fall, you think about mixing in a few of the folks running for city council as well, I just think we get washed out. I totally understand the idea that I wish, I'm a civics teacher, that we had better participation. And I wish there may be ways to improve upon that. I think part of the reason that participation is so much greater in even years is, let's face it, there are more people on the ballot. Number two, there's a whole lot more money put into the election because they're based on the parties. So you got parties putting money into the elections. And then number three, I think going back to somebody mentioned this, I don't think, we still have a long ways to go to teach people that a lot of the stuff that affects you is really local government, really municipal government, not necessarily national government. Maybe you should be a little more focused on who's leading your local government. So those are some of the reasons. I also talked to a council member from a city who was forced to go to even number elections in 2016, and he wish that it never happened. They were forced to do it, and he's been able to maintain his seat, but he just says that we just get lost in all the other campaigning that's going on, and it is, for fundraising, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Not that that's the most vital part of running a campaign, but because everybody else is seeking funds for their particular race as well. So for me, it's not a priority.
So I'm gonna move us to the next topic so that we've got a number of ideas, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and you'll say, this is something we've got to make a decision on right away, or something we can push back. So I want to move to parks, and let me just kind of pull back here a little bit more here. And we had a number of different ideas around parks or trails in this, so we kind of grouped them in this category here. And so, big picture question for you is, is it important for the city, for staff, to put parks as a priority to really push forward to work on now? Is it something that could be to do if you have the resources, or is it not a priority? So we've opened it up, and I'm going to give you just about 5 minutes for this segment. Open it up.
5 minutes for parks. That's
Want
all.
less or more?
I think 5 minutes. I think we have to have some green space. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for on that. I have something specific to talk about when it's right, but as it pertains to Dogwood parking lot. But John, where are you?
Let's give them about let's give them 10 minutes, and I think most of these we've kind of talked about. I do want Jeff to pitch his idea about Dogwood parking lot, and then the bigger discussion is, is park development going to be a top priority for more park development going forward? Is really the big picture, because a lot of these, and everybody can kind of talk about their individual ideas, but at the end of the day, there is a decision that will, not tonight, not today, but next week, decision we can make regarding Dogwood parking lot. But the rest of them, let's just talk about the importance of this. Do we want to make parking, park development? And Lindsay has put in the chat exactly where I think I was going regarding parks and recreation. So Jeff, you jump off and talk about Dogwood and downtown park, and then we can talk about some of these other things.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah, Jeff, my apologies. Just want to make sure, because I know you also want to wrap up the time, so my apologies.
No, it's no apology. I just was confused. That's not good. What I wanted to throw out here, and this for Dogwood parking lot, and it could be the whole piece, or we could cut off a piece to supply some parking to some places that exist already that really need it, maybe in the handicap parking areas, whatever. But what I wanted to do, and it's a big if, we get the hotel on the south end, the historic courthouse inn on the south end of Church Street. And if we do in fact get the one at the Cedars by the Shipments, we will have bookend incredible assets on both ends. One of the things that I have the hardest time with, I know we have to do it, is taking just really nice wooded areas and turning them into parking lots. So I would really like to say, I'd like to turn a parking lot into a really nice wooded area. And what I thought about is taking a dogwood lot, like I said, in its entirety or whatever we work there, and make it just an incredible park for downtown Hendersonville's full version, mini version of the Central Park. I know Jen and Lindsay talked about the splash pad. I think that would be an incredible place to put it. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that is nice canopy, walking area, cool, lots of pollinators, and just a green space in the middle of all the asphalt. And that's the last big space we really have downtown. And some people will think that's a little bit crazy to take $1 million piece of property and plant trees on it, but I can live with that. Okay, I'll shut up.
Can we open up to some of the other?
High priority. Well, I'm gonna like to follow what Jeff said. High priority, 100% behind it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, I'd like to see a downtown park too.
I love this idea
tell you something funny. When John mentioned this to me, I'm embarrassed to say, well, where's everybody gonna park? And John was like, you're gonna build a parking lot. I'm like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I guess I should have thrown that out there. It's dependent on the debt. Sorry about
No, I mean, no, it's an awesome idea. Are you kidding me? A downtown green space is fantastic. I love it.
that. And there's lots of grant money and stuff out there, so I've been encouraged by picking at it, looking at it, and I think it's kind of nice to do something. Like I said, we'll take a parking lot and make it great. There's a lot of pieces that have to come together first, hopefully they will.
So you all have some other park ideas here, and again, John's question about, do you want to make park development a priority? Jennifer, do you want to jump in?
I do really fast because, we have this huge discussion going on right now with the county about Berkeley Park, and some of that overflows into Patton Park, and so, yeah, I mean, having an organized, we have park department before, right? Okay, and, but for me, I also, my other thing that I do is I chair the social services board, and as a result of that too, I was appointed to a state board for child protection, and so, swimming is a big, thing for me. We have, every few years, we have preventable accidental drownings, and we know that our minority community is more susceptible to those accidental drownings. And for me, I had a meeting with Amy Lynn Holt from the school board and Rebecca McCall, the county commissioner. And our goal would be that every child in Henderson County learns how to swim in kindergarten. And I know that that is even a little later than some children learn how to swim, but if we have that as part of our curriculum and education, then one, we are helping to save lives of children who may not learn how to swim in their lifetime. And it's just an amazing service that we can give to our community. And so that also kind of coincides with the Berkeley Park build out. I know that the school system would love to see an aquatic center. I would love to see an aquatic center for the community, that the children would be able to learn how to swim there for free. And so that's something that I would really like to see happen. And that's all.
It's sounding like parks development, this is something that you all collectively want to put as a priority. Is it okay if we go ahead and move
I'd like
on
to
to
make a
that?
comment.
Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
Sure, I'd just like to make a comment. Yeah, so in Greenville County, I just know because I've done a lot of sports in Greenville County, South Carolina. And there, it's just, the way they do it is they run 0 programs. They only take care of us. To me, that's the model for us is if we're going towards parks, is we don't run any programs. We just make sure the park is there and is taken care of. So I think for me, that would be a priority for me. The only challenge I do think we have is adding more land, so to speak, for a parks department. I guess John would have to answer if we have enough parks here to justify a person or persons being dedicated only to parks, but I think in favor of that.
And Jerry, I think, if this is a priority, we would need a parks advocate. I know we're all would like to have grants, apply for grants, and that person just to advocate, just to do the legwork, just to organize, design, and knowing the workload in public works that having whether it's a standalone department or whether it's someone under public works that was responsible for parks and park development, it would be, I think at least out of the gate, one person we would need to do that, to do the park development, and to really just champion it, and do the work that needs to be done. So I'll stop there.
I will say, I know we've talked before about not wanting to run programs, but I really love Jennifer's idea of free swim lessons for kids, because she's totally right. There's so many accidental deaths that happen from drowning, and it's inaccessible for some people. I almost wonder, if we don't want to run a program, is there something we can buy, since they're running or managing Patton Pool for us? Could we partner with someone else to help to be able to provide those lessons?
Are you gonna answer that?
Oh, yeah, so the partnering with the Y, is already on kind of the list that we were talking about. Until there was a facility built, we had one in Joliver. But once again, if it's part of the county school curriculum, then they would essentially manage that program as part of, education. And I'm maybe speaking a little bit ahead, but I mean, these are some of the things that we've already discussed, but that would, it would essentially be part of curriculum. Is that, you would, drive us and you would go for non-swim so many weeks out of the school year.
I love that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and Jen, I'll follow up. So last year we took in a foster child at this time who was 17. She had no idea how to swim. We were shocked. So first thing we did was, as soon as the weather got nice, we got her lessons at Patton Pool. But, yeah, I would agree with you completely. And I've had a student about 15 years ago that drowned, maybe 13 years ago that drowned in high school, who was a star athlete, who was, the running back on the football team. So I agree with you that is a core value that everybody learns to swim almost consecutively as they learn to walk.
I do want to say I met with, I think it's Lori K, LK, at the Y, is that right? And in talking with her, they're doing, and we started doing this at Boys and Girls Club quite a while back, is you take kids up that haven't learned to swim and stuff, and you teach them drown proofing. It's not swimming. They're not going to go out and do breaststroke, backstroke, butterfly, but they do teach them how to drown proof. You fall off, you fall in a pool, how to get out. And to my understanding, they're trying to work that back in. Obviously, COVID is an issue there, but that swimming would be great, but I think it's critical we teach everybody how to drown proof. And then they'll get excited and start swimming once there's no fear of water and they have access to it.
I'm gonna move us to the next, I want to move us to broadband. I'll just find it here.
Unless somebody else put that in, that was what I did.
Yeah, let's go ahead and, let's just go add it here. Let's just add a sticky note for broadband. And, yeah, you can, elaborate on that.
Right, well, part of the problem here is the way the state has set up the laws. So the issue here is not so much do we want broadband, everybody agrees with that. We've expanded our meetings today with not having enough bandwidth. But I don't know the best way to do this. John, this is where we would definitely need your input, but it just seems to me that something's got to change, because I don't know how there's a whole new crew of employees that are not going to work anymore. They're going to work from home. And if we're trying to recruit those high-paying jobs that they can work from home to come live in Hendersonville, we have to have better broadband. So I don't really know what the answer is, other than make a concerted effort that this is something that cannot wait, that the time is now to get that as far as a tool of economic growth, so that, we're not necessarily building a business park. We just have broadband, so when so-and-so moves here from Charlotte, because they can now work from home, but they'd rather live here, we have the broadband to be able to attract them.
Gary, I think that's a good idea, and I know Jen and I talked, Jen had an idea about, setting up, a broadband advocacy committee, in the community, and I think involving the chamber, and I think if, I've mentioned that to chamber direction, I think if council, could write a letter, it'd be nice to have a committee, not, I hate to just form a committee, but we need businesses involved too to push the issue at the General Assembly, so, this committee, and it's not only new providers, it's our existing providers that we can have these conversations, with the Morrises and the AT&Ts and those kind of things, and we need the business community to advocate for that, so I think that would be the approach that I would suggest, at least out of the gate.
Yeah, at the Wednesday Land to Sky meeting, expanding broadband was one of the legislative priorities that was voted on. The statewide Regional Councils Association, it's on their list. It's on so many people's lists. The discussion is how to do it, who's going to do it, and that's where you get to the political part of it. And you need to have, I think the businesses are the ones that really need to be pushing the General Assembly to make some changes and to do some additional funding.
Well, would this be a topic to discuss with the Business Advisory Committee? This is advising us, but maybe this is the reverse of us when them said, look, we really need you to advocate for this infrastructure need, because they're going to listen to you more quicker than they're going to listen to us. John, is that a?
Yes, you could give them that. You give them that charge, and then one of their members is a chamber rep, and you take it back to the Chamber Governmental Affairs Committee too, about establishing a larger community-wide group to look at broadband.
I think we should bring in our state representatives and just hear from them what the political roadblocks are, because that is what it is. There's businesses out there that are supplying this, and if we go around them and come up with a way that cuts into their income, that's when it hits the fan. So there has to be, this is just, we have to get this done. You kind of just get to the point where it doesn't matter whose toes get stepped on. Right is right. We have to get this done. But there has to be maybe a way we could talk and it work together. So I think it's critical, absolutely critical.
I totally agree with Jeff.
So I'm hearing this is one you want to put in the do now bucket. High priority?
I will do it.
Okay, all right. So we've got 15 minutes of time left, so we do need to move through these. Proceed with 2021 special events.
Okay. I just want to see things getting back to somewhat of a normal, even if it's a new normal. We just can't keep canceling events. We know how to run things, we know how to do things safely, people are getting vaccinated, and our local community and our businesses have suffered enough, and we need to get back on track and start rolling. And at this point, if, we know how to operate safely, most partners are outdoors, and if you don't want to come, you don't have to come.
Okay, any other
John,
questions?
what is the plan, John? Or maybe I missed an email. But for Rhythm and Grooves, has there been any statement made about that?
Yeah, we've not made any final decision at all. I think that's, in Lou, I don't know if Lou wants to chime in, but, or let me just say this, there's not been any discussion. I know the committees are just kind of eyeing what's going on in this, around the state, but I do know the Department of Agriculture this week announced they're gonna have the state fair and the, Mountain State Fair, so it's interesting that the state looks like they're gonna start opening up things, but I know that, our downtown committee, like if we did it, we wanna do it safely, and I know, and I'll say this, I think the Apple Festival is looking for a way to have a safe, festival, and their plan is to have a festival too, so.
John, you're also gonna have, the TDA is gonna have an application for Garden People League coming up in March on the Special Events Committee.
Okay.
So,
Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
No. Keep moving.
Yeah, so the next idea is around improved employee pay and benefits.
That was mine. I think that some others had something very similar, or we talked about it, you know, what can we do to, retain employees? I have heard how some of our employees their salary is so low, they have to apply for food stamps. So we've got the general public supporting employees because we're not paying them enough that they can afford food. I'd just like to see that our salaries will support a family. And I know there's, Lindsay has talked about, family. So I think just the whole issue of, what are we paying our employees, what are the benefits we're offering, health insurance, all this sort of thing is a discussion we're going to have.
Okay. Move to the next one, which is having a discussion regarding adding mental health professionals to HPD staff.
So, I sent John a couple of articles that I found. There's a couple cities throughout the country that have successfully added, they've either added departments within their PD that focus on mental health calls, or they've partnered with a local organization and those professionals will go on those calls. So I'm happy to send these articles to all the other council members. One is Cahoots in
the standpoint of the schools, the introduction of social workers 2 years ago has been, and I know this is not just social work you're discussing here, but has been unbelievably helpful. So with regard to helping our staff and people who are dealing with traumatic situations, Jen, I'd have to agree that making it easier for them, whatever that means, is definitely an improvement of their working conditions. And also taking away, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm sure we're still struggling with the stigma of wanting to go, but, maybe having them more accessible in whatever way you're saying here, I would think would only improve their working conditions, which is what we've all been talking about. And, so I don't know where that falls on the priority system, because I don't know if we're hiring someone or providing easier access to someone. I don't know exactly where that fits, but I certainly see a benefit for that. Huge benefit.
I'm gonna move us to the next one here. Next idea, single-use plastic styrofoam.
That was mine. That's sticky. It's not pretty. It's a very difficult one. I just, on a personal level, felt like I needed to put it on there because, oh my gosh, I've used so much of this stuff in the last year. I just think that somewhere along the way, we have to begin the process of, okay, we can't just use single-use stuff forever. I have no idea how you would police that, do that. I really don't know. But John asked for audacious ideas, so this was one of mine. And also, obviously, if you're trying to head in that direction, you've got to give the market enough time to, you can't just, say we're going to ban this stuff tomorrow. Furthermore, even if you did have a ban, I don't know how you would enforce that, So I don't know what the answer is, other than it seems to me that it is something that's important as we move forward as a community to find a workaround to or something different that doesn't leave us with all these materials that we cannot recycle and we cannot compost. So, yeah, should not go under priority, I don't think. I'm just saying this was one of my big audacious ideas, and I really don't know how to make it happen.
So Jerry, we are talking about this in the Environmental Sustainability Board, and we're partnering with the recycling company in Mountain True to start doing surveys for downtown businesses to see who's already using compostable products and who's not, what's the hurdles that you're up against. And I really envision, I know we talked tasking the Environmental Sustainability Board with doing a whole sustainability plan, which they are starting to work on, and this is one of the big things that I foresee being in there.
Okay. Let's go to, we're moving our way through this. Partner with nonprofit to provide free credit counseling to citizens of Hendersonville.
That's me.
Great.
So one of the best books that I ever got, my aunt gave me this book by Susie Orman when I graduated from college. It was the book like Young, Fabulous, and Broke or something like that. Because I was young and fabulous and broke when I graduated from college. And, but, I didn't learn about credit and scores and savings and, those types of things in high school. And, I feel like a
this year, at Hendersonville High School, the other high schools at maybe Sumter, will be taking a class called economics, economics and financial literacy. And so I will tell you, Jim, the North Carolina Public Instruction, they have addressed this and they have put a class in that all I say seniors here, I guess you can any year in other school systems, will be taking that addresses just that issue. So just to let you know, that's on the horizon. It's not here next year, but it's coming.
Okay, I think we have covered all of your ideas. So I'm going to quick.
I'm sorry, can I interject one thing?
Yeah, of course, Jennifer.
It's not on here, but it was on here last year and COVID hit and then we kind of just, I don't know, discombobulated. But again, I just want to bring up ETJ and growth area for planning for the city. I really think it should be a priority for us, establishing some healthy boundaries and growth areas for us so that we can better plan for the future. We have, we're very service oriented here and those services come at a cost. And as we heard last night, we have a lot of costs that are coming up in the future with maintaining those services. And a lot of people who utilize these services are not tax. And so we have to plan for, the next 10, 15 years. And I just don't want that to get shuffled away.
Was there anything else that you all wanted to put on the board?
Well, I will mention, and maybe it was on there somewhere, I'll admit the screen is small, but this fell under parks. But one of the things that I at least want to bring up once again, John invited this, was whether or not we would want to float a bond to build the Greenway at Berkeley, to finish the loop at Berkeley. I have no idea what it would cost, but to figure out, oh, there it is. That mine was specifically for the Greenway at Berkeley. That's not just anything. That's specific. Figure out what that project would cost, and then would council be interested in floating the bond for citizens to vote on about would they be willing to incur, debt to get that finished.
When we proposed a parks bond a few years ago, it lost by a very small margin, and that was with absolutely nobody pushing it. So I think we could have a parks bond with help from the Alkawaha, and maybe some other groups that would actually help promote it. I mean, the city itself can't, and no other did. So I think we'd have a good chance of passing it if we got some other groups behind it.
If you want to extend it further, for Miller Park over here, which used to be Dogwood, it'd be a great way to go ahead and fund that one right off the bat as well. So I just set out as far as whenever the next election is, that start the process of figuring out what we would do, what amount we would want, and then very specific projects that this would go to fund.
Can we please call it Miller Park forever?
In all honesty, I was thinking more on the line of Cole Park. That was where I was going.
Thank you.
I love that.
Even
I'm
though
not
it
a
sounds
selfish
good.
person. I am not a selfish person.
I mean, the amount of awesomeness in this virtual room is hard to hate. Surrounded by great.
So let me go ahead with and I apologize, I just want to apologize again if I felt like you're rushed a bit on this. You have a lot of ideas, and, I know you wanted to kind of have a chance to talk through them. So we've some of these are are difficult to do, they require more resources. Some of them are urgent, but maybe a little bit easier to do. You can just do them. So we haven't really organized them that way. But what we heard, and this is where we want to check, is that what you said is that the very highest priority is narrowing of King Street. That's going to be, that sounded like there was consensus on that. The city council safety actions would be a little easier to do. That is something you want to go ahead and do. You want to push broadband in any way that you can, making that a priority. Parks, whether moving, establishing parks department, pushing parks forward. Parks broadly is a priority for you. So there are other things that you would like to be able to do, if possible. We didn't capture all of these. We captured a couple of things that, if you can do it, you would like to move it forward. I don't know that we heard any of the ideas, at least at the conceptual level, that that's not something we're at all interested in as a council. But I really want to go, because staff wants to get some guidance, and it may be that you can come back to this, John, and where there can be a little more chance to do some prioritization. But just want to check this column over to the right, the most important things, of all the things we've talked about, what you would want to make sure we pulled over. Jerry, sorry, it's a little small.
It's okay.
And I'll tell you what I can do is I can also scroll back over the list here. So broadband, ETJ, and again, all these things stay on the board. Proceed with 2021 special events.
Warren, can we, sorry, I didn't know. Lindsay, you want to talk about 2021 events from downtown real quick, just so council knows about that? Excuse me, Warren.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things that they've talked about in the downtown communities regarding events. Obviously, knowing that the situation is ever changing with COVID, but right now for Rhythm and Brews, the nature of that event is more dependent on COVID restrictions than some others that we do. But the group is proceeding cautiously optimistic with resuming Rhythm and Brews starting in June or July. So normally I believe that would start in May, but we're pushing it out just a little bit. And at the end of the season in October. But they're really waiting for mandates to allow 1,000 people at an outdoor gathering before they can move forward, because there are so many people that attend that event. We are doing the Barefoot and Art Walk, and the Bear Reveals tentatively scheduled for May 13th at the TDA at the outdoor stage, which is at the end of South Main Street. And they're also looking into an online streaming option. I think what they did this past year with the online option worked out really well, so I foresee that we would continue doing that even once all the restrictions are lifted. Also going to have the Hendersonville Farmers Market. That starts on May 8th, and it'll go through October 30th. Plus, they have the 2 holiday markets that were very successful this year. Social distancing guidelines will be in place for those. Meredith does want me to mention that we need volunteers each Saturday for the farmers market, so if you're interested, hit her up. And then those Saturdays that they're going to do again this year. So it closes Main Street for all of Saturday, which, as we know, and right now we're planning to do them on the 2nd Saturday of each month, beginning in May and lasting through the end of the year, if that's what we choose that we want to do. That's all my updates.
So, John, it may be difficult to try to go through all of these again and try to put them in the bucket. I think, we captured a few that there was some consensus. What would would you like to do, or what would you like to make sure you get guidance on at this point?
Warren, if we could just capture the comments, I think we've got pretty clear guidance on what's important and what, some of these things, and we'll have some other discussions, like I know, we're gonna come back to council at a workshop meeting and talk about, employee pay and benefits. We already had that on our agenda to come to a workshop meeting and devote at least an hour to that conversation. That'll be there. I know some of the police discussions, I think all these will continue on. The one thing that I think I do need guidance on is really just conversation about the elections. If that is something the majority of the council wants to move forward with, on a legislative level for this year, we need to know that pretty quick. Everything else, I think we've got time to work on, because the local bill deadline is coming pretty quick. That would be the only thing that I think I have to know, whether the council wants to move forward with that sooner rather than later, or if you just want to wait and see what happens with the 2021 election. That's another. I'll stop right there. That's the only one I think we need some kind of guidance on whether it's a priority or not a priority.
I can add a comment on that, John, if it would be helpful to tell you where I'm at. I feel like I'm very conflicted in moving it from odd years to even years. I see the pros and cons for both, and so I think it would be nice to have a lot more voter turnout that we do in the even numbered years, but I also have concerns that, yes, we might have more people voting, but they could be less informed voters, because once you get, like you said, it's a long ballot, and maybe they may still vote, but they have no idea who they're voting for. I mean, that's a concern. But I also think that it's a lot easier to access information now than it's been in previous years for voters to be more informed. So no matter which way we go, I do think we need to have a bigger push in sending people to vote 411, that they can look up all of the candidates and make a little cheat sheet for themselves to, see who they're gonna vote for. And I think the education aspect in either year would be good, because we could pull up those odd number voters if more people knew that we even had our election then. I think that's part of the issue, because I know when I was running, people go, oh, your election's next year, and I was like, oh, it's now. And no one really realized. So I could go either way. I almost feel like waiting to see what they're already trying to do at the state level, since they're talking about possibly pushing it anyways, might be the best course of action, since we are on a time crunch.
I'm not in favor of moving it. I would love to see a greater voter turnout. And it could be, if the state does decide to push everyone, we'll know how it goes next year.
Okay. So, unless, I think it's a wait and see at this point is what I gather from the majority of council. Does anybody disagree with that? That's the direction from staff, that we'll just wait and see and see if there's any other feedback or any other direction. Okay. Warren, I think that covers everything that I needed for as far as decision making.
Okay. So thanks everybody for hanging in. I know this was a 3.5 hours, long time. Really just want to give you a chance to, and you're a couple minutes over, just any final reflections, closing comments, and so just open it back up to you.
I just want to thank, sorry, go ahead, Jerry. I'll close the meeting. Go ahead.
No, John, I was going to tell you, thank you for your ideas of how to put this together. I appreciate it.
I think it was very successful. And yeah, that we're all pretty much in agreement on what we want to do. have big, big ideas that nobody else liked or said, you, we all pretty much.
It was worth it just for that. That was awesome.
Just for that.
That will make, Mayor, that will make our weekend. Oh, what a great way, what a great way to end it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank everybody for your time. Thank you, Warren, for another great facilitation job. We appreciate it. Just thank everybody. And I hope, all I've got is hope everybody has a great weekend.
You have
Bye,
to
everyone.
officially close down.
Oh.
You need a motion.